Picture this: New York City, 1999. We're talking the financial capital of the world, right? Which means it's absolutely packed with wealth and, of course, a ridiculously high concentration of ultra-luxurious vehicles. But suddenly, something totally unprecedented starts happening on these ritzy streets. A massive wave of car thefts hits the city. And look, these aren't your typical smash and grabs. These thefts are lightning fast, entirely silent, and the most baffling part? The stolen cars are literally vanishing into thin air. This wasn't just some local policing headache. This was an ultimate stress test for the entire American crime control system, pitting standard law enforcement against an invisible, practically military-grade enemy. Let's get into it.
48. Just let the sheer scale of that number sink in for a second. 48 high-end luxury vehicles stolen in less than a month and a half. A thief would just casually walk up to a luxury car, turn it on, and drive it away in a matter of seconds. They were hitting high-end malls, wealthy residential streets, premium parking lots, you name it. Now, normally, when cars are getting stolen at this kind of volume, police eventually find something, right? A chopped-up chassis, some abandoned parts in an alley, but not this time. There's absolutely nothing left behind.
So that leaves us with a massive, glaring mystery. Where exactly do dozens of stolen luxury cars go without leaving a single trace? Well, to figure that out, we have to look way past the guy stealing cars on the street and meet the mastermind pulling the strings, Min Jin-young. And guys, Yang was not your average street mobster. He was actually a former military intelligence officer in the Chinese army who had relocated to New York. He saw this massive, untapped demand for luxury cars back in wealthy Chinese cities like Shanghai, where at the time they were practically impossible to get. So what did he do? He decided to apply his classified spy tactics to orchestrate literally the largest car theft syndicate in American history.
Section 1. Military-grade theft. Applying spy tactics to street crime.
Okay, let's dive into how he actually pulled this off. You really have to understand how a trained intelligence operative views a street-level crime. Yang didn't see a chop shop. He treated this entire operation like a highly classified military supply chain. His operational security was next level. At the very top, you have the mastermind, Min Jin-young, but he never, ever gets his hands dirty. He relies entirely on intermediaries, two guys named Dean and Mario. Dean takes the direct orders from Yang, and Mario, well, he manages the actual network of street thieves, the executors. And finally, at the warehouse level, Yang only employed Chinese or Asian staff whom he implicitly trusted as insiders. Because of this super strict compartmentalization, Yang was completely insulated. If a thief gets busted, they only know Mario. If Mario gets caught, he only knows Dean. Yang is completely shielded from the actual crimes happening on the pavement.
And the operation definitely didn't end once the car was hotwired. Now, what's really interesting about this tactical approach is how Yang dealt with tracking technology. He knew these expensive cars came loaded with GPS trackers, so he made it a strict rule. The thieves had to electronically scan the stolen cars, find the GPS, and rip it out immediately. But he didn't stop there. This is crazy. They would take the stolen car and just park it in a nice neighborhood, right alongside other expensive cars, for 2 whole days, just leaving it out in the open. If the car was still sitting there 48 hours later, Yang knew for sure the police weren't tracking it. Only then was it considered clean enough to bring back to his hidden warehouse.
Once those cars safely reached the warehouse, Yang's logistical genius really started to shine. To get these vehicles out of the U.S., he didn't just shove them on a boat in Brooklyn where the local cops might be snooping around. No way! Instead, he forged fake manifests, claiming these massive shipping containers were just packed with dry food. Then, he loaded those containers onto cross-country shipping routes all the way to California. This was a brilliant, calculated move to exploit the blind spots in American crime control. By moving the goods across different jurisdictions, he entirely bypassed the local New York authorities and got his cars to West Coast ports that were geographically way closer to his wealthy buyers in China.
Section 2. American Crime Control. The NYPD countermoves.
For 5 years, this intelligence-driven machine just hummed along perfectly. But, you simply cannot operate a massive criminal enterprise in New York City without eventually waking up a sleeping giant. The NYPD quickly realized they weren't just dealing with some local joyriders. This was a massive systemic threat that required highly innovative solutions, and this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate cat-and-mouse game. On one side, you have Yang using strategic counter-surveillance, swapping phone numbers, using cryptic language, even totally abandoning his own phones for a while. But on the other side, you have the sheer persistence and legal weight of American crime control. When Yang thought he was off the grid, investigators secured court-approved wiretaps, meticulously tracked his intermediaries, and eventually sniffed out his new numbers just by monitoring his wife's phone calls. Slowly but surely, the net was closing in.
The whole syndicate actually started to unravel with a single lucky break. On day one, a driver for the gang gets arrested. Under some really intense police pressure, the guy flips and gives up the names of Yang's intermediaries, Dean and Mario. By week 2, investigators had successfully tracked Dean to a warehouse tucked away in a quiet, clean neighborhood, a spot Yang specifically picked to avoid heat. Now here's where American Crime Control really showed its discipline. Instead of kicking the doors down immediately, the NYPD set up completely out of sight. They maintained strict surveillance on that warehouse for 6 grueling months, just patiently piecing the entire puzzle together.
Then the massive breakthrough finally happened. During a wiretap on Dean, investigators intercepted a call from a mysterious guy known only as Kenny, which it turns out was Min Jin Yang's secret alias. After months of complete radio silence, Kenny delivered a chillingly simple message: "I'm back." That was the signal. It told the NYPD that the mastermind was spinning his massive theft operations back up, and most importantly, it finally gave the police a direct, moving target.
Section 3. The Stealth Takedown. Penetrating the Network.
NYPD investigators knew that taking down a former military intelligence officer meant standard police work just wasn't going to cut it. They had to fight fire with fire and match Yang's spy tactics with deep cover-ups of their own. To penetrate Yang's highly exclusive, compartmentalized network, law enforcement deployed their absolute best weapon: human intelligence. They successfully planted an undercover Chinese police officer inside a restaurant where the gang regularly held their meetings. Because Yang only trusted his close-knit Asian associates, placing this specific undercover officer was the perfect Trojan horse. The officer casually hung around and managed to overhear the gang discussing their plans to rent a brand new warehouse. This single piece of intel allowed the police to completely leapfrog Yang's operation and discover his very next move before he even made it.
Armed with the location of the new warehouse, the NYPD put together a brilliant surveillance strategy. See, Yang had rigged this new warehouse like a secure military bunker, setting up his own surveillance cameras to watch for roaming police cruisers. So the NYPD completely adapted. They didn't send a single patrol car anywhere near the area. Instead, they basically went invisible. They mounted hidden cameras high up on the surrounding buildings. They monitored every single vehicle coming and going, completely bypassing Yang's elaborate security systems. For the first time in 5 long years, law enforcement was actually one step ahead of the spy master.
Let's move along and see how this builds to the final climax. The police were patiently waiting for the absolute perfect moment to strike, until suddenly, an unexpected GPS signal from a freshly stolen car forced their hand. A local officer was tracing the ping and almost walked right through the front door of the warehouse, which would have totally blown the covert op. The surveillance team knew they had to act right then and there. They launched a massive, high-stakes raid on the warehouse, arresting all the workers inside. But Yang wasn't there. Knowing that if word leaked out their mastermind would completely vanish, the NYPD had proactively stationed a simultaneous stealth unit right outside Yang's house. The very second the warehouse fell, the unit at his home breached the doors and successfully arrested Min Jin Yang before he even realized his empire was collapsing.
Section 4. The $40 million Defiance. A hollow victory.
On paper, this was an incredible feat of American crime control. The NYPD had totally dismantled the largest luxury car theft ring in the history of the United States. But, as we're about to see, capturing the mastermind didn't necessarily mean capturing the ultimate prize. So, the crucial point is this number right here: $40 million. That is the staggering profit Min Jin Yang made over his 5-year run, which is equivalent to about $75 million in today's money. And here's the wild twist to this whole explainer. American authorities never recovered a single cent of it. By the time they kicked down his door, Yang had already used his intelligence-driven financial planning to wire all of those profits directly into accounts back in China. He had completely, totally insulated his fortune from the US government.
American Crime Control proved its absolute power and tenacity by dismantling an unprecedented military-grade syndicate. They won the tactical battle, for sure, but with $40 million safely secured halfway across the world, completely out of reach, it begs the question, who really won this war? It's a fascinating, kind of sobering look at the complex, shadowy reality of international crime. That's all for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you guys next time.